Hello and welcome back to this Monday Night Raw watch along where we have got up to Monday, May the 3rd, 1993. So tonight's episode was taped on April the 26th and indeed aired on May the 3rd, 1993, again from the Manhattan Center. The commentators again, Vince McMahon, Randy Savage and Bobby the Brain. We start the show in the arena with Shawn's music already playing, and we get the classic shot of the arena sort of from the corner where we can see the arena, the ring and the fans. It looks quite cool actually. Fink's in the ring and he announces that this match is for the Intercontinental Championship. Shawn comes down to the ring, gets in and walks towards one of the ring girls who's holding up the sign and sort of starts wiggling near the ring girl. Vince, Bobby and Randy welcome us to the show and Bobby says that Hacksaw Jim Duggan has to beat Shawn, but Shawn doesn't have to beat him. Vince picks Bobby up on his poor use of the English language because I think Bobby said he don't have to beat him. Vince says, you mean he doesn't? We get the opening video and the siren sounds as Hacksaw Jim Duggan's music hits, and we see him make his way down to the ring with his 2x4 and the USA flag. I thought Hacksaw got a really good reaction here. I'd go as far as to say it's probably one of the biggest reactions I've heard so far. We get a big USA chant, and Bobby says that they are chanting it because they just figured out where they are. Yeah, it's only our second week of having Bobby Heenan on commentary, and really enjoying his commentary. So the first match of the night, we get Jim Duggan versus Shawn Michaels. So the bell rings, Shawn bails to the outside as soon as we start, and Jim storms around in the ring, shouting his usual ho. We get ready again, and Randy says that Mr. Perfect is the best Intercontinental Champion of all time. Hacksaw gets another USA chant going as Shawn goes back to the outside after getting in briefly. He says he can't concentrate with all the noise. Gets back in the ring, and this time they finally lock up. Shawn ducks and elbows Jim, but gets hit with 3 clotheslines. So Shawn goes back to the outside, so Jim starts another USA chant. Shawn rolls back in. He tries to anyway, but gets kicked. Jim catches him as Shawn tries to go for a kick of his own and hits a series of right hands. Shawn takes an almost comical bump to the outside as Jim starts yet another USA chant. Yeah, it was good heat to start with, and now I'm thinking it's getting a bit repetitive. Shawn tries to walk to the back, but Jim goes after him and carries him back over his shoulder back down to the ring. We get an advert break, and when we come back, Shawn is on the outside and hangs Jim over the top rope and takes over with some right hands of his own, knocking Jim down. He drops the leg drop across Jim's neck over the ropes and hits a couple of knee drops. Jim shadow boxes and Shawn rakes the eyes. Shawn goes up to the top and hits an axe handle to take Jim down and starts to choke him. The crowd is still chanting USA. We get a headlock from Shawn and Jim goes out with a couple of elbows and shoulders to Shawn in the corner. We get a whip into the corner and from Jim, but Shawn gets the boot up as Jim charges in after him. We get an elbow drop from Shawn, which gets a 2 count, and then Shawn locks in a headlock. Jim fights out of the headlock with some elbows and then gets up and hits a couple of right hands, hits a shoulder block off the ropes. Jim goes off the ropes but gets caught by a knee from Shawn. Shawn then takes Jim to the outside and hits an axe handle from the apron. We get another USA chant and Jim starts to fight back. We get a thumb to the eye from Shawn and he rubs Jim's head along the ropes and locks in another headlock. Jim keeps the arm up on the 3rd try and takes Shawn to the corner and hits some right hands to take Shawn down. Jim gets up and hits 10 punches in the corner and then a big power slam. Jim gets into the 3-point stance and hits his big clothesline, which takes Shawn to the outside, and he again takes a walk down the aisle. Jim goes out after him and again they fight back to the ring and around the outside. Big clothesline from Hacksaw takes Shawn into the fans over the barrier, and at that point the referee calls for the bell. And Fink informs us that Jim Duggan wins due to a countout. Hacksaw doesn't look too pleased with this, gets on the mic and says that the WWF get a lot of things right, but they got this one wrong. There's no way he can beat Shawn pillar to post and not win the belt. He starts throwing chairs into the ring and says he's not leaving until he gets another piece of Shawn, so he takes a seat in the ring. We go to an advert break, and as we come back, Jim's still in the ring before being very annoyed. Shawn's nowhere to be seen. Vince tells us that at King of the Ring, it will be the Hulkster and Yokozuna going at it. So a nice little match there. I thought it was really good with Hacksaw and Shawn Michaels. It was, decent paced. I thought Jim Duggan looked pretty good. I like the ending where we've got this count out, but we go straight into wanting a rematch. So that was good. Sort of, setting up the next thing already. Shawn Michaels, looking good. And the commentary. I just, one match in and the commentary without Rob Bartlett there is so much better. We go to a King of the Ring report with Mean Gene, brought to us by IcoPro. Gene tells us that we need to do it like Crush does it. We cut to a video of Crush lifting weights, and he tells us that IcoPro is the most advanced supplement in the world today, and brother, you've gotta want it. Gene tells us the fans are already excited about the first ever King of the Ring, and that Bret Hart is the number 1 seed, for obvious reasons. Over the weekend, Lex Luger qualified, as well as Doink and Mr. Perfect going to a draw, so Gene tells us that they might have to have a rematch for that one. Gene also tells us that there will be 8 men, and it will be a single elimination tournament. As well as that, at the pay-per-view, we're going to have Hulk Hogan versus Yokozuna, and at this point, Gene just gets word in his ear that Hacksaw Jim Duggan has left the ring, and he'll be getting a call from President Jack Tunney. We're told then that El Matador will take on Razor Ramon on Superstars, and Papa Shango will verse Jim Duggan on Superstars for the next couple of qualifying matches. We go back to the ring, and Doink's music starts playing. So Doink starts making his way down to the ring, and Vince wonders if he will be in the King of the Ring, or indeed will be the King of the Ring. Vince mentions that the Kamikaze Kid is making his debut here on Raw, and Doink attacks straight away and takes down the Kid. We get a clothesline from Doink, takes down the Kid again, and a couple of leg sweeps to take down and straight over into an STF, which he releases before slamming the Kid's head into the mat. Kid goes headfirst into the turnbuckle, and a chop takes him down. We get an elbow drop and a couple more from Doink before getting the stump puller, and the Kid gives up. But it does take a while for the referee to sort of notice this and ring the bell. I guess because, the Kid seems to be shouting that he's giving up and waving his hand. Very, very short match. So our first look at the Kamikaze Kid. Doink, again, looked, to have a decent wrestling knowledge, but didn't get very long to show it there. We get the Todd Pettingill advert for WWF Mania. Coming out next, we get Bob Backlund, again with no music, and waiting for him in the ring is Duane Gill, who I must say has a very early 90s look about him. So Bobby the Brain says that he thinks Luna is a very attractive woman after her appearance on Mania with Todd at the weekend. Bob gets the takedown, and Vince mentions that Bob is a former champion, but he's on the comeback trail and he is 43 years old. We've mentioned that a few times, but nothing seems to have been done about it. Like, we haven't built anything up. He's just still coming out and having these squash matches. We get a couple of leg sweeps and they take down Duane. Vince tells us that next week we'll have a rematch. Next week it's going to be Jim Duggan versus Shawn Michaels for the Intercontinental Championship again, but it will be the first ever lumberjack match on Monday Night Raw. If either of them, Vince tells us, leaves the ring, then the wrestlers on the outside will throw them back in. Bobby says that one good thing is that it will be a non-title match, but Vince corrects him and says that it will be a title match. Bobby is apoplectic at this. He can't believe that such a thing would be done to Shawn. Back in the ring, we get a lock-up, and Bob hits a shoulder block, but Duane gets a hip toss, and a short arm scissors gets locked in. Bob bridges out of it nicely, rolls over, and then still holding him. So Duane's still holding on to the hold. Bob lifts him up, powers him up, puts him on the top rope. It was a great show of strength from Bob Backlund there. Bob follows that up with a back body drop, and so the best way I can describe this, he's got Duane laid flat on his back, and Bob picks up his legs, steps through, so Bob's now stood with Duane's legs sort of wrapped around his, and then Bob falls backwards into a bridge to pin him. It was very unique and got the 3 count. Vince says that after the break, Jim Duggan will be back with us. We get a Tatanka IcoPro advert, followed by the Slim Jim advert with the Macho Man. And when we get back in the arena, we've got Vince on the microphone, and he brings out Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Vince announces that his sit-down strike worked, and Jim Duggan says that Sergeant Slaughter came out and told him that the president was on the phone, so he went to the back and went to go and talk to him. He said it wasn't fair, but Shawn can run and he can't hide, and next week he will get him in a lumberjack match. Jim says he won't take anything away from Shawn, he sure is pretty, and he can't fight. And next week he will take the title away from him. Vince says that he will have to be careful because if he chases Shawn, one of his adversaries might get to Jim. Jim starts another USA chant as we cut back to the advert break. Randy tells us that after the break we will get the Headshrinkers. We get a shot of the desert and then pans up to a belt buckle and a gun being put into or taken out of a holster with some, very Western music playing. Bart introduces himself as well as Billy Gunn. They've all heard about the WWF is trouble from Money Inc. and the Headshrinkers, so Billy reckons that they are going to the WWF to look for some tag team excitement as they fire their guns at some cans. It was dull. I don't know. The characters maybe could work, like these cowboys coming in, they're riding in, they're going to sort out the trouble, they're there to take care of business. They mention, the heels, so I guess they're coming in as faces. But yeah, the promos at this point were very wooden, very bland. Yeah, didn't instill me with a lot of excitement to see the smoking guns. Our next match is going to be the Headshrinkers versus Jim Bell and Jay Sledge. Fink and Vince talk over each other yet again, so I can't tell what either of them saying, but at some point they're going to figure this out and get a lot slicker with it. Out comes Captain Lou Albano, and he shakes hands with whoever the guys are in the ring. I say Jim Bell and Jay Sledge, don't know which is which. And Fink introduces them again. Out come the Headshrinkers, Samu and Fatu, when they come out with Afa. Captain Lou joins on commentary, and he keeps calling him Vinny. He says something has gone wrong with the Headshrinkers. He says he isn't a fan of Bobby, but he goes on to then compliment him on his managing and announcing, and then gives some strange insults about, brains and birds flying backwards or something. The Headshrinkers attack and get a double flapjack-like manoeuvre to Jay or Jim. I don't know which one's which. Lou calls Bobby a demented half-wit, and again, something about being a baby and putting his brain in something. He's talking very fast, is Lou. I can't really tell what he's saying. The Headshrinkers attack on the outside, and Vince tells us that Yokozuna will be a lumberjack next week, which spells trouble for Jim. That could be interesting, having Yoko on the outside. Fatu takes over and kicks and stomps. Samu comes back in, and they hit a spike pile driver. I was expecting a pin, but no, didn't go for it at all even. They mentioned that Captain Lou used to be the manager for Afa and Sika. Captain Lou says that he learnt Samoan and then speaks in Samoan. I'm not sure it is. I could be completely wrong. But we get a double headbutt, but Samu picks up whoever it is. He was pinning. We get a choke, released it before the 5 count. Choke again, released before the 5 count. Bobby says he can't understand what Lou is saying. We get a headbutt from the top rope from Fatu, and he gets a 3. They rip the clothes off whoever it was that they just pinned, and that's it. It was, another standard Raw squash match with no real story going into it. Headshrinkers looked okay. They looked hard-hitting. We haven't seen the Steiners for a while. Actually, we haven't seen the Steiners since WrestleMania. So I don't know whether Scott got injured or if they're no longer with the WWF, but I wouldn't mind seeing them again. Vince says that they should calm down and take a course in home improvement from the Bushwhackers. And then he just says, smack 'em, whack 'em. And we cut to a video advertising the Coliseum home video release of Smack 'em, whack 'em. And we see the Bushwhackers wearing hard hats, protective eyewear in a house, I guess. There's a hole in the roof, and one of the Bushwhackers undoes a pipe up in the roof, and water starts pouring out. I have no idea from that what Smack 'em Whack 'em is all about. Cool. It's time now for our main event of the evening. It's going to be Kamala versus Rich Myers. Back in the ring, and Kamala comes out, and already there waiting for him is Rich. Vince says not only is Yoko a lumberjack, but he's in action, and also a lumberjack will be Mr. Perfect. Bobby isn't happy about that because he says Perfect will definitely get involved. Kamala attacks and lifts Rich up and with like a chokehold, and then hits a kick, and then just picks him up and puts him back down again. Bobby wants to know if the lumberjacks will be wearing flannel shirts. Vince says that Slick is absent. He obviously is the manager of Kamala. We saw that on like episode 2, I think. But he's absent tonight, and Vince says that he has been teaching Kamala English and social graces, and he feels now that he can maybe go out there on his own. So Kamala hits a splash, tries to pin, but he's got Rich face down, so he goes round to the other side and tries to pin him again, but Rich is face down. He does some other try to pin, but he's the wrong way, and then rolls him over a few times, and he finally gets the pin. It was stupid. Just stupid. I don't find it funny that Kamala doesn't know how to pin people. I don't get why this is still a thing. Anyway, we've got Bobby now wanting to go and interview Shawn Michaels. We go to an advert break, and when we come back, Vince says that we will have Bam Bam versus Typhoon next week in a qualifying match for the King of the Ring. Might be quite good. We get a new WWF figures advert. So we've got some new figures and a whole new advert here. So we've got the Macho Man doing the advert now. He's holding the figures, and he shows us the new figures of Hulk Hogan, obviously the Macho Man. We've got a Virgil and an IRS figure. So I guess, as I said the other time, a Bulldog figure is still there, and I haven't seen the Bulldog yet, but yet we've seen his figure still being advertised. So maybe this is a sign that Bulldog isn't there. We see Shawn and Bobby backstage. Shawn looks to be fresh from the shower, having a towel wrapped around him. He says that we have never seen a champion treated this way. Shawn says he doesn't have Jack Turney's number, but yet Jim got a call from him at home. Something's wrong there when the Intercontinental Champion doesn't have his number, but Hacksaw Jim Duggan does. Shawn says that he will have a few friends out there as well next week. Bobby wants to know what his plan will be, so Shawn tells him to move the microphone out of the way and he'll tell him, so Bobby does. Chats away, can't hear what they're saying. Bobby gets the microphone back, and it just ends the show with Bobby saying, Jim Duggan, just stay at home. So I'm guessing Shawn told him his master plan. A decent episode, actually. We've got the opener, Shawn Michaels and Jim Duggan was a decent match, quite good. Doink Kamikaze Kid was too quick to be anything. Bob Backlund, Duane Gill was one of those that's just a standard 1993 Raw squash match. Headshrinkers looked decent, although again, Bell and Jay Sledge didn't offer anything in terms of offense, and Kamala, Rich Myers the same, with a stupid ending where he pinned him after a splash that, I think I could have kicked out of. He'd left it that long. Anywho, there we go. That is our May the 3rd episode of Monday Night Raw in the books. Catch you next time.